Hey folks, welcome to our little podcast here, Navigating the American Dream. We're going to try and share some insights and advice and tips about how you can get to live and work over in the USA on a H2B visa. I'm John Fingleton.
I'm Sarah.
Sarah has been on multiple H2Bs over in the States, so brings a wealth of experience for the whole candidate journey and what it's like to live and work over there. And myself, I run one of the agencies based out of Ireland in the UK here who provide people with opportunities to go work with these country clubs predominantly, and then other employers over in the States. So hopefully we're going to share some good knowledge with you all, take you through a bit of a journey here over the next couple of weeks. And definitely, like everything, the more you get engaged, the more you ask questions, the more you share your thoughts or comments with us, the more we can make this beneficial to you all. So, Sarah, how's life over in the States at the moment?
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction. Excited to share this knowledge and information with more people as well. Life in the States is quite good. I myself, like John mentioned, was on the H2B visa, living and working in the States for a total of 3 years in 6 different places. I mostly did work in country clubs, and I then returned home after my visa. I later did actually move over to the States and married, so I do live here now. Life's quite good. It's Philadelphia right now. It's hit summer, so I'm very happy about that because I do love the sun and yeah, enjoying life.
It's
Now that
it's
it's
one of
summertime.
it's been one of our hooks over the last couple of years. Escape the wind and rain, come to Florida. So I'm delighted to hear you're
Exactly.
enjoying the sun over there.
Yes. And on the visa, that's exactly what I did for my 3 years. I avoided winter and chose each season in a sunny location, which is a great thing to do.
And it sounds like definitely living the American dream if marriage has been one of the bonuses that have come out of it all.
Well, I didn't even know I was going to end up in America. I was actually traveling Europe a couple of months, decided I'm going to enter into hospitality when I was living in Dublin, applied to everywhere. And one of the places I must have accidentally applied to was actually your company, John, which was recruiting in Dublin to send people over to Florida. And I thought, well, Florida is also sunny and they speak English, so let's go there. And that's where the journey began.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I suppose my own background, I did a bit of a J1 in my early days in Chicago and then spent about 12 or 15 years between the States and the Caribbean, setting up a lot of private bars and restaurants and golf resorts. So, like, you can have an amazing experience, you can have amazing life, amazing opportunities if you are in the hospitality industry or if you get into the hospitality industry and if you want to go and explore the world. And it's one of the things we'll sort of discuss, I suppose, as this podcast goes on weeks by week. There's a lot more than just America. There's a lot more than just
Yeah.
country clubs. There's a lot more than just H2Bs. But for right now, we're going to sort of focus on the country club sector and the H2B part of it. Yeah, I returned home, God, 2010, after a couple of experiences in the industry in Ireland, decided to set up B. One of the things that very much I was excited about was trying to bring this opportunity for people in Ireland and the UK and Europe to go and have the experience of living and working in America. Really probably experience, to me, what was a much more professional level of hospitality. So delighted we were able to help you all those years ago, Sarah, and great to
Yeah.
sort of be kicking off this little podcast here with you now. And hopefully we can share some insights with other people who maybe are trying to figure out what to do next or where to go or whether this is for them or not.
Exactly. And I know you have a wealth of experience all in the hospitality industry, which you will be broadening out as the podcast goes on as well. But I am excited to start off with the H2B visa, and we both share the same passion on wanting to share this opportunity with people and give them an experience like we had on the J1 or the H2B visa of living and working abroad and really enjoying that experience. I know we have a couple of questions lined up that we frequently get answers that we want to go through on this podcast. So I know the first one that mostly is asked is what actually is the H2B visa? I know there is a lot of confusion about what it is. So, John, if you would like to explain that a little.
Yeah, I suppose, look, and for me, it's I suppose I enjoyed sharing the story definitely with the employers back here and even in Ireland and the UK who struggle to try and find people to want to work in the industry. And I always sort of remind them of, like, the organization I work with about 25 years ago pretty much launched because one country club was trying to figure out how do we get people who want to come and work in Florida during the busy October to May season, and we don't have enough people in the state who want to work here. And they went about exploring and, I suppose, setting up this program where you can bring people in on a H2B visa, which is very much a seasonal workforce visa. And I think that's one of the things that we definitely get a lot of questions about is, can I go over for the summer? It's like, you can't go over for the summer, but you can definitely extend a winter H2B visa for a summer H2B. A H2B typically, because of financial costs, normally starts October to May, and typically you're based in Florida. And a lot of that is based off the fact that that's deemed their peak season by the Department of Labor and Immigration. So yeah, very much a seasonal workforce visa. We use it predominantly for hospitality, but there's a lot of industry use it, and normally kicks off like that the first week in October and takes people right up until the end of May. It's great from the employer's point of view that it really allows them to bring people into their country clubs to help bolster their existing teams, to make sure that they really don't overwork their existing teams and their current teams, but that they can also deal with this huge increase in business during that busy season, and also provide people, from all around the world, not just Ireland and the UK, with a great opportunity to come and spend 8 months living and working in America. Is it like from your point of view, like when you speak to other people who are looking at particularly doing this for the first time, how would you explain it to, say, the people side of it?
Yes, one of the most important things to know is when the time is to apply to go over, because as you said, many people who are finishing college for the summer or school do think, oh, well, it would be great to go abroad and live and work for the summer. And the J1 visa is probably catered a little bit more to that, and that's something we can go into another day in a topic. But for this H2B visa, it has a lot of other benefits, and it is typically 8 months on average that you go over on this visa at first, like you said, from October to May. My personal opinion is I thought it was the H2B visa was a scam at first. I thought it was too good to be true, honestly. How can my flight be paid for? How can a company have a job for me? How can they also have already organized where I'm going to live? How have they already arranged where my transportation is going to pick me up from, where they have arranged for me to live and bring me to work? Like, how is this so that I can just get on a plane and I'm input to a new life that I didn't even have to think too much about, do too much work or create really myself? And I was 21, and I, of course, got my parents to read through the emails and the fine print to ask them, do you think this is legit? And they were hesitant too, while I'm reading through. And after got my parents and brother read through, they said, no, this seems legit. So I applied to it, and since then I was passionate about sharing some of my own experience and answering some of those mostly frequently asked questions that I myself had at the time and other people along the journey had, because I didn't want anyone else thinking, oh, second guessing if it's a scam or if it's real, because it is. And for my personal experience, it was an absolutely amazing opportunity to live and work abroad and experience a different culture, a different life, and to learn how to work in like 5-star places or country clubs or hotels, somewhere where you can get a wealth of knowledge from and even bring that back home and apply that to your career as well.
Yeah, it's funny when you say, is it a scam? It's probably the biggest thing that we hear year in, year out. And I always say to people when we eventually get to speak to them about it, when you're over there working those 60-hour weeks, you'll understand it's no scam. It's a great opportunity. It definitely does come across a bit like that's almost too good to be true. But I suppose the reason it's too good to be true is that these companies in America are very wealthy, and for them, they understand that by investing into their people and having this additional workforce on the ground, trained, taken care of, provided, looked after, that they can then deliver that level of experience their members are looking for. So it's a bit of a win-win for everyone. But it's, it's definitely definitely the biggest feedback we get every year is it's too good to be true. I suppose that sort of takes me on to like, we always get the question, like, do you need qualifications? Do you need degrees? Do you need that? And one of the great things I believe with the H2Bs is there isn't any qualifications other than, honestly, a great personality and a great attitude and an understanding of the job you're going to do. Yes, it definitely helps if you have some experience as a waiter or a waitress or hostess, working maybe in a leisure or fitness team or in a kitchen, but really they'll back themselves to teach you and train you how to do the job. And is that your experience even when you transitioned from Florida clubs up to clubs
Yes,
summers?
there is no degree or anything necessary. However, an open mind and a great personality and a willingness to learn and a willingness to also be around and interact with many people from all over the world and different cultures who may have come from different opinions and backgrounds and be able to work together. And to be prepared that you may have a bit of a culture shock because you are moving abroad to another culture, to another country. And I think someone who is a great fit to join the program is someone who is comfortable with moving away from home and their family for a period of time, who will be okay with being away for that extended period of time and will be comfortable away from home, and who is going to really put 100% into the program, who is going to show up positive to work with a good personality, and who is going to work hard. Because I like the point you touched on in what you said last about you realize it's not a scam when you are working 60 plus hours a week. And that's an important point to touch on as well, because after all, this is a work visa. It's not a go and party visa. Of course, there is time and a place to, on your days off, go and have fun, to explore, to adventure. However, it is a work visa, and from my experience, work does come first. A minimum of 40 hours a week is what I experienced, and most of my coworkers experience, and anywhere from 40 probably up to close to 60, 70 can happen per week, especially when there is holidays or events, because we're working for the holidays. We're working for Christmas, Easter, Mother's Day, Father's Day, 4th of July, any of these celebrations, and they can go on quite long. However, you work hard, you can get to play hard. You are guaranteed to get at least a day off a week. If you're lucky, you may get two. And I know this visa is not really focused on taking a lot of time off, because we are hired and employed to come over and work on the visa for the busy season. But in my experience, I've still been able to make it work and get travel in on my days off. When I was in Florida, I was able to have a couple of days to travel to New York and to travel to Miami, which, was something that I was really excited to go and see, to West Palm. I got to see so many great places on my days off in Florida that were locally and also in between my visas. So in between one contract ending and when I did decide to extend my visa, I had a couple of days in between where I could do a bit of travel as well. So one of my main focuses, and I know a lot of other people, when they do want to work and live abroad, is they do want to get some of that travel experience in, but just remembering that it is mostly first work and then fit the travel in on this visa, because at the end you can always you can always have a tourist visa, or you can always come over again on a tourist visa if you did want to come back with your savings and get more travel in that way as well.
Yeah, so I suppose qualifications really are the same, be it for a winter season for your first H2B, going back for your second, third, fourth, or going up north. It really is all about attitude and personality, not so much about qualifications in college or that kind of stuff. So where was your best place you went to visit? Like, where was like the one that you go, highly recommend people go and check it out?
I would say Arizona. Now that was obviously the second season, so I'll touch also on one where I came over my first season. Arizona was one of my extension seasons that does stand out in my head. I worked in a country club called Desert Mountain. Absolutely loved it. There was 7 restaurants there, so it was quite a big place. There was a lot of H2B workers, like over hundreds of them. And we also worked with a lot of the American staff. And it was just a great community and environment of staff. And they also had put a lot of effort into, like, the HR team and the management team put a lot of effort into the employees, into training them. Now another one, probably my first season as well, because that was my first experience of living and working abroad. That was in actually with your company as well. I worked in Woodfield Country Club. That was my first experience, so of course that's going to be one of the most memorable ones as well. I absolutely loved the location where I lived, which was just I was working in Boca Raton and living in Boynton, so it was not far from work, not far from the beach. We had a beautiful house in with a pool, and I was with about 50 other people on the H2B visa. I think 40 were from Ireland and 10 were from South Africa. And it was just surreal having that independence, living and working abroad, but also having the comfort and community of others who are on the H2B visa, and also having that reassurance of being able to reach out to yourself and your company to answer any questions that we had along that process, because there was a lot that we had to go through for, especially for your first season, that you wouldn't even think of, like settling in, setting up a bank account, making sure that social security comes through, a lot of paperwork before the season. So being guided through that was really nice, as well as the people that I met on that season have been friends for actually that whole season. We ended up following each other around for 3 years, some of us, and stayed friends afterwards. And I still am best friends to this day with some people from that first season as well. So the friendships that you make are really special as well, because you are spending a lot of quality time with them in work and outside of work as well.
Yeah, definitely friendship seems to be the common trend that comes up year after year from people. And like, I know for a fact we've a lot of, for some reason, a lot of Irish people have ended up getting married to a lot of South African people. It seems to be a good sort of fit for each other, so it does. So we're always catching up each season with the clubs and so did you hear about so and so, and now they've got married and they've had their second child, and it's like, and for me, it's one of the parts I really enjoy about the work we do with these country clubs as well. Is like, yes, they do demand and expect a lot from the people they bring over, and they do really, it is a job that you're going over to first and foremost, but they're equally invested into people having a good experience, and like they're equally invested into people's lives and where they've gone afterwards. And like Elaine was one of the ladies who worked with me back in the early days, who since has departed the company. Has gone on to other things in life, has got married and stuff, but there's still clubs every year. They ask for, so how's Lainey? What's going on? And no way, she's married. Oh my God, send her our best. And so, like, for me, it's all part and parcel of, I suppose, what we do and what we try and sort of help people see, that there is this other side to hospitality that maybe we aren't accustomed to or used to over here in Europe. I suppose one of the questions we get asked quite a lot is the costs associated to it. And this, I think, probably leads into that whole, is it a scam scenario as well? And while we say there is no costs associated, everything is paid for you, it is very much also important to point out that there's 2 upfront out-of-pocket expenses people have as they go through the process. So normally after people get offered and hired and accept a position, we have to start the lovely administration paperwork side of the process that goes on for about a month or 5 weeks. And one of those things is people have to secure a police clearance. Now, we sort of walked them through how to do it, and it's no big deal. But for anyone living in the United Kingdom or Northern Ireland, it does cost 45 to 50 pounds sterling. And basically, you fill in some paperwork, provide them some information, and they just run a criminal background check on you. So as long as you've never been convicted of anything, which I'm guessing you haven't, Sarah, because you managed to get through the process, you're good to go. And the club reimburse you back that 45, 50 pound in your first week's wages. Obviously, then you go through the medical process, which we pay for and cover all costs of, so there's no out-of-pocket expense there. But there is then the out-of-pocket expense when you go through the embassy process and you have completed a tedious, boresome DS-160, and now you're looking to book your appointment to go into the immigration officer. And like I always say to people, Uncle Sam will definitely enjoy taking its $189 off you for the privilege of going in for that interview. But again, your country club reimburse that back to you in the first week's wages. Is there any other sort of out-of-pocket or costs you've come across over your years that people should be aware of or should know?
One cost I personally have not had, but I have some friends who have had this cost, was of first booking their flights and then getting reimbursed for their flight as well. And that seemed to be when they joined closer to the time of when the closing date was for the visa as well, or if they went directly through being hired by a club and not an agency as well. But that's another cost. But they were definitely reimbursed for that. And then one of the costs when you're already on the visa, if you do want to do an extension, maybe getting from one club to another, but the next club that is taking over that visa does reimburse you for that cost as well.
Yeah, and I suppose it's important to point out, while obviously I work and represent one of the bigger agencies over in Florida, over in the States for these H2Bs, there is multiple agencies that operate in the same market, but there's also quite a lot of country clubs just hire direct themselves. So you really sort of do need to make sure that you understand the process you're going to go through for either the agency you're working with, the organization that's recruiting you, or the country club itself. So yeah, definitely check the process up front so you know what's ahead of you before you go down what could be anything from 3 to 6 months of a journey. So there's no point in getting to the end and then realizing I didn't know I had to pay for this or pay for that. The one thing I would suggest to everybody is that typically you should be reimbursed for all of your costs for a H2B visa. So just be aware of that yourselves up front as well. I suppose that sort of takes us through to the time length, Sarah. Like it is quite a long process. And if I brought you back to when you originally found us way back in your first day and you were looking at going, and like it can be anything from 3 to 6 months of going through almost like a tick box exercise before you eventually end up in a plane.
Yes, there definitely is a process to go through on the personal side then to make your own personal arrangements of if you're working in a job, are you going to hand in your notice? When are you going to tell them that you're going to leave? Getting your own arrangements in order as well.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's well, not funny. It's one of the things we always try and point out to people is ideally don't hand in your notice to work until, if you can, you've been approved at the embassy, because that's sort of your last hurdle. Like if you get to the stage where the US Embassy has approved your visa, which, like I say to people, the only reason they will deny your visa is if you've already been in the United States on a work visa and you overstayed, or you were on a holiday visa, worked illegally, and they found out about it. Other than that, there's no reason you're going to be denied your visa. So if you definitely get your visa approved, book it or hand in your notice at that stage. For a lot of people, they sort of get to the stage where once they've accepted the offer, if they know they've never been in the country before working, or they haven't overstayed a visa, or they haven't been working illegally, they go ahead and they hand in their notice at that stage and give their employer time to sort of find somebody to replace them. But either way, like even if you go to the embassy in that second or third week of September, you still have about 2 weeks before you're getting on a plane to go anywhere. So like there is ample time there. But I always try and recommend as well, like you do want a couple of weeks of downtime. You want a couple of weeks to hang out with family and friends and catch up on a little bit of rest, because when you do get to Florida, like it is full on for probably 6 weeks, like between settling in, unpacking, getting acquainted with new roommates, housemates, going to work, going through orientation, training, your first couple of weeks, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I need a break. It's like, and now it's Christmas time.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say one other thing in the interview in the embassy would be do not intend to overstay your visa. and do not overstay your visa, and also do not share that you want to overshare a visa. That's just something that shouldn't be done on this visa. And also to, show that you have ties, to come home after your visa, which I know was recommended for us to do back in the day as well, to show that you have maybe school to go back to, or a family wedding, or a reason to return home as well.
Yeah, and definitely, like, a lot of those ties to return home become very important if you're looking to secure a third or fourth H2B, or you're looking to do another 3-year H2B. There is a bit of I suppose, concern around this isn't a way for you to live in America long term. This is supposed to be for you to go over and get a bit of training and upskilling, and then return home to your home country and put it to use. I think at the moment, like, probably the best thing to share with people is, for right now, now is a great time, if you are anyway interested or keen in this, to definitely explore who you're potentially going to apply to, who you're going to look to work with, which agency you're going to apply to. You can do some simple searches on Google. They'll all pop up. Everyone's advertising at the moment.
Yeah.
But this definitely, the month of June is probably your last month to think and decide and make up your mind, are you or aren't you going to do it? Because most clubs will start their interviews in July or August. And once a club goes through that interview phase, once they've filled and hired people, well, then those positions are gone, and then there is no more options, and you wait until next year. So for anyone, I think, who's sort of keen on it, interested on it, I always recommend go ahead and start the process. Reach out to an agency, reach out to a country club, get a hold of myself, or get a hold of Sarah, ask us for some advice, and at least start the process and get yourself ready for interviews. Even at that stage, once you get an interview with a club, if you've been lucky enough to be offered, you now have to really make that decision. Am I or aren't I definitely going to go through with this?
Yeah.
Up until then, you might as well be in it to win, as opposed to looking from the outside going, oh shit, I wish I had have applied, and I didn't. Oh, now all the places are gone and I have to wait until next year. So definitely my advice, I think, to wrap up things for today is there's loads of information. Do some Google searches. As I said, reach out to Sarah. She's been over in the States now for many a year. Reach out to myself. Definitely figure out if this is something you're going to do, who you're going to do it with or through, and then at least get the process started. What would you reckon, Sarah?
Start the process. If it's something you're interested in, you're already invested. If you've listened this far to the end of this episode and have got this information, it has shown that you are invested and interested already. So why not make the next step and start the process? Now is the best time, and why not?
It's a bit like the lotto. You can't win if you're not in.
Exactly.
Great catching up with you today. I know we've a whole lot more information we want to share with people over the coming weeks and months. We're going to do this once a week, and try and, as we said, answer any questions people have along the way as well. So definitely follow us on our socials. Keep an eye out for Transforming Hospitality. It's on most of the major socials. And we will do our best to sort of answer any of those questions that you have. And hopefully over the coming weeks, we're going to have some guests who are going to join us on the show as well, who are either going through the process over there or have already been over and are back. And again, they'll just share maybe what life experiences they've had or they've learned, or tips and tricks they have for you.
So if you are someone who is interested in appearing on an episode, whether you've been on the experience or aided or connected, do feel free to reach out to us on any of the platforms that we have linked down below. And Transforming Hospitality is going to be the name of those platforms, and you will find them in the show notes. So thank you all for getting this far, and I look forward to sharing more information with you in the future. And John, appreciate this conversation as well, and look forward to really having these weekly conversations.
Pleasure. I wonder how many people have figured out this is episode number 1. We just sort of winged it for the day, and we promise we're not going to get better as these episodes go on. But you know what? Sometimes it's not about looking for perfection. We figure we just get started and share the info, and we'll take it from there. Sarah, enjoy the sun over in Philly. I'm going back out here to a bit of wind and rain in Ireland, wishing that I was back in my 20s and heading off and be myself.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm off to the beach for the weekend, so I will.